Hello everyone, this is Caroline and today is May 8th, 2011. Welcome to this webcast. For those who are joining for the first time, I recommend that you go back to the first webcast of the year. You can find all the webcasts on the website, omniumuniverse.com. Go to the media center and you will find all the webcasts there free of charge. So welcome. Before I begin, I just want to begin with a couple of announcements, as I always do, and also to allow others to a little bit more time to join. I want to remind everyone of the class that are taking place online, the Mastering the Human Mind. It's a very powerful class. If you are truly interested in awakening very quickly and truly engaging in awakening your true divine essence in this human form, I highly recommend that you look into this class. It can be found on the website, omniumuniverse.com, on the university page. In fact, for all those who are still new to this and to Omnium Universe, if you are looking for any class, just go to the university page. Anything that's related to healing sessions, reprogramming, cellular reprogramming, clearings, all of that happen in the Healing Center. And if you're looking for any sort of session or webcast at any moment in time, you can just go enter it into the search box on any page of the website and it will take you right there. We have a massive library, a lot of information, so that's probably the best way to get around. And I also wanted to, for those who did not receive the calendar, in May I will be starting a new class. May 31st will be the first class of the Healers Program. The Healers Program is a way for you to learn the Omnium Healing Method. If you've been experiencing the healing circles and all of the global meditations we've been doing together, then this class will allow you to understand the mechanics behind these very powerful meditations. You will understand how the energy field is truly formed, how we are truly made up, and many different ways of healing. This is not just another energy healing course. In fact, it is very different from others. The first difference being that we use very specific frequencies. It's a very, if there's one thing about this whole work, in fact, is the specificity of the information, the precision of the information. So you are learning to bring very specific universal frequencies, not planetary, not galactic. And also, it is a combination of different tools. So you are learning to bring a wide range of tools at the same time. It's quite a sophisticated program, but because you are working with universal frequencies and source frequencies, what ends up happening is your own tuning into your own original self, and this works on a very deep level for your own awakening, your own healing as well. So whether it is for you to continue awakening and healing and purifying your human instrument, or if you're interested in working on others, check out the Healers Program beginning May 31st. Look on the calendar page of the Omnium website and you will find the information there. Also, of course, on the calendar page, you will find very also important clearing healing sessions this month. Eyes and ears, plants and animals. By the way, all of these healing sessions, the clearings, the cellular reprogramming that I've been doing since the beginning of this year, again, it's all about precision. They're very purposeful and specifically targeted as things are moving this year, as we are moving into all of the energies I am planning to do these sessions in order for you to facilitate your own awakening and your own work. As those big global things are happening, events are happening around the world. So plants and animals as well is a very important session. Not necessarily if you like animals or if you want to work with plants, but this will also bring another layer, a higher level of information regarding your connection to plant and animal life and also to your own human nutrition. Anyway, very important work, very important information. I highly recommend you continue to look into these things as we try to facilitate this process for you. So, moving right along, today's webcast is the continuation of what we have started to talk about since the beginning of this year. This year being very unique in the sense of really on all levels. This, to me, this year brings a significant physical change to the entire Earth, to the collective consciousness, to the individual consciousness, to the Earth itself, from the magnetic field to the polar shift to the actual changes in the chemistry, the electricity of the actual makeup of the planet. And I am sure you have been noticing a lot of movement this year. I mentioned in January that this year will be quite turbulent, and I think we are observing all this turbulence on all levels. The biggest or the most obvious one being the political arena. Where we are seeing a lot of upheavals, a lot of movement all over, escalating and also creating a sort of a chain reaction all over from one country to another. Of course, if you go back in each country's history, I'm sure you will find a time where there must have been a revolution of some sort that changes the path drastically of this nation. However, what is very interesting and what is happening right now is that it is not about one country changing drastically from old paradigm to a new paradigm, from one political system to another, but it's one country and another and another and another and another, and there are a lot of countries going through the same process at the same time. This is what's making this very unique and very interesting and very unusual. So it is not that the revolution itself or the change in political system that is unique. What is unique is the magnitude of this movement that we are beginning to see that is a global movement. This means that it is a collective awareness that is waking up and wanting to change the system, wanting to change the old paradigm political system. And that is extremely powerful because it seems it means that it is the global picture. It is humanity in a collective sense that is creating together. And even though each country is still separated by its own culture and its own language, but if you look at it from a higher perspective, you see that we are all speaking the same language. And the same language is we are asking for truth. That is what is happening, is the need the desire to establish truth, establish transparency, freedom on the earth. And so that is pretty impressive. And of course, I see that this movement will continue to happen. In fact, it's very much happening, of course, in the Middle East. We see that everywhere. We see that in Africa. We've been seeing that in Europe in a different way, in South America in a different way, in Asia in different ways, but you will soon see that this movement will continue to escalate and involve all the nations in eventually asking consistently the collapse of governments that are misguided, misaligned, based on the old paradigm of stifling its people. And so this is the year of liberation. This is the year of freedom. And while we are going through all of these turbulences and these movements, it gets quite uncomfortable because we are feeling, sensing all of these movements, whether we are in a country that is going through those changes, or we are simply tuning in energetically or watching it on the news. We are being affected because we are part of the collective consciousness and we are feeling all of these changes. Of course, geophysically as well, we have seen a very, very powerful movement, even not just, of course, this year with Japan, but even the last few years. And these will continue as well from the summer on. I mean, the summer meaning from June on. A lot of turbulences and movements, of course, not just in the Pacific, but in other areas, as all the tectonic plates are following a similar trend as the political arena, kind of having a chain reaction, so to speak, because all the tectonic plates are all connected. If one has a very strong movement of some sort, then it will trigger the movement of another and another, and so on and so forth. So all of this is happening and creating a lot of movement underneath our feet, below our feet, around us, and above our heads. So there's a lot of stuff happening. That's the reason why I decided to do these webcasts, to try to share with you as much information as I can and tools so that we can try to hold on as we go through these movements, these turbulences, and try to keep our focus on what exactly we're supposed to be doing and where we're going, and just to kind of have the clarity, what does this mean to us collectively, globally, but of course also individually. What does that mean when I find myself completely disoriented and in fact feeling physically off because of everything that's happening? How do I make sense out of this, and how do I make myself useful, and how can I focus? How can I continue creating in a 3D way when there's all this stuff going on? So this is what we're going to be talking about. And of course, as a reminder again for those who are just joining, this is because the entire Earth grid system, that is the old grid system, is collapsing. That is why it's collapsing. It is collapsing, and that's why we are observing the collapse on different levels. And so it is collapsing so that the new paradigm, the new grid system can be instilled. In fact, it is already being instilled. It is a simultaneous thing that's going on. As a part of the old grid system collapses, then the new part is kind of put in place. You can visualize, or you can imagine, just to kind of have a sense of what I'm talking about. you can visualize the Earth being wrapped with a grid system that is kind of old and kind of worn out. And maybe just imagine that it's wrapping around the Earth maybe at 5,000 miles or something like that. And then beyond it is another one. Let's just say, this is just to give you a visual or a sense of what I'm talking about. So around 7,000 or 8,000 miles from the Earth is another grid system, and that is the new grid system. And what's happening, I've been talking about this, explaining that our physical brains are connected to the grid system. That's why we can see reality on Earth as a human. We have our hearing, our vision, our senses connected together because of this grid system. It's like kind of our common software, so to speak, so that we can all hear, see, sense, understand, communicate with each other in a normal or a human way. So if the old grid system begins to collapse, then this is reflected in, as we've been saying, on all levels, politically, geophysically, and other levels as well. But this is also affecting us. It's affecting the functioning of our physical brain because we are so used to tuning into the same frequencies for so long. And suddenly these frequencies are stopping to exist. Now, again, the good news is the new grid, which is the bigger one, is already in place. So it's not like you are completely in limbo. You may feel that you are in limbo, but sometimes parts of your brain is starting to kind of is having a difficulty finding the new higher frequency of the new Earth grid. And so that's why not only during these times will you feel a little bit kind of in limbo, but you will feel confused, you will feel detached, you will also have a lot of physical symptoms that manifest, that could really range from sudden dizziness, because you see the magnetics are changing as well around the Earth, from the old grid to the new grid. The new cycle of the magnetic field around the Earth is changing, and so that affects your brain. In your brain, you suddenly will feel quite dizzy sometimes, or like you're floating, you cannot focus. This is specifically, this is one of the symptoms of the magnetics changing and switching from the old grid, your brain, from the old circuitry to the new circuitry. You can also have a lot of pain sometimes, especially nowadays, lower back pain, because that is, in fact, that is more connected to the navel area, but you may feel it in your lower back because, again, of all of this switching from the old. This has to do with the polarity of the north and south frequencies also changing, basculating, and so you will suddenly have those physical pains again as you switch, as you begin to unplug from the old grid to the new. And I am sure many of you are feeling exhausted, very, very, very tired, and that is because you are not only experiencing all of these changes, the collective changes within your body, but there's a lot going on. It's kind of like you're exercising. It's like you're working out 24/7 because you are, your brain is working very hard to unplug from the old, plug the new to the new, constantly, and very fast. Because you know, as I mentioned previously, this year is the year where you make the change, where you jump from one to the other, you unplug, you replug yourself in. And so you are working very, very fast and very hard for yourself and also for others collectively. So if you have been feeling exhausted, worn out, do not be surprised, because you are working very, very hard. And from also in terms of your nervous system as well, or you may have some of you, I'm not sure if you're not feeling any of these, some of these symptoms, you may be feeling them down the road. So that's why I'm mentioning all of this, for you to be aware that this may be part of the picture. So other things may be sometimes the sudden visual disturbances, and this has to do with the amount of light that is beginning to filter in, to pour in from the higher grid system. I'm simplifying this. The entry point of the cosmic light is going to change. So the way your brain used to receive light from outer space, so to speak, beyond the Earth, beyond this planetary system, used to be in one way. And now, not only is the way you receive the light going to be different, but the amount and the magnitude of this light is also changing. So that it's kind of like suddenly somebody flashing a very bright light into your eyes. It's something like that. So you may feel some visual disturbances sometimes, and this has to do with these additional octaves of light beginning slowly to filter in, becoming available on the Earth. Same with your ears. If you suddenly have some things in your ears, that is the same reason, is because the frequency range that used to be available in terms of hearing is also suddenly changing. It is expanding. So all of this, in fact, is very good news. This means that we are beginning to receive the higher frequencies into our brain. Our eyes are starting to adjust to the new octaves and to the new frequency of light that we didn't have up until now. Same with our ears, same with our entire brain. But in the meantime, it may feel very uncomfortable. And if you are not aware that that is all part of the picture, then you may be worried or confused, or you may think that this is an impediment to your 3D work, or you have a problem. So I would say that if you have these physical problems, if they last more than 2-3 days at a time, then you may want to kind of take a break and see, maybe there's more going on. Some people can take more than others. Some people can experience and go through more physical changes than others. And so it depends, really, it's case by case. But what's happening is that, first of all, your spirit self is orchestrating all of this. You're not going to suddenly download all of this information, all of the new higher frequencies in one day. So you're getting bits and pieces of it. So you will get bits and pieces of the new light frequencies on Monday or Tuesday, and then on Wednesday you will get a bit of the sound frequency, for example, and then on Wednesday your brain will start registering the new magnetic direction, and then on Thursday, you see what I mean? So it's kind of like if your visual spectrum had to just jump from 0 to 100 in one day, you'd probably collapse. So that's how your brain is every day is absorbing a little bit, a small aspect of the entire new Earth grid system, which is the new higher frequencies that are becoming available. And so, but in the meantime, like I said, it could be quite confusing and quite tiring and exhausting. So that's why I am sharing this information with you. It is all good news.